Together for Victory is Hearts of Iron 4's first expansion pack, focusing on fleshing out the Commonwealth nations of the game, like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Raj, and South Africa. To start off with, you get completely new focus trees for each of those countries that I mentioned earlier. You've got alternate history ones for them, so you can take South Africa, for example, and try and create the African Union and liberate different African countries and make them puppets of yours. You can play as the Raj and become communist or fascist, or just simply go along with the Allies' plans if you want to. The new focus trees are pretty good for the most part. You've got different historical and non-historical choices you can make. They're decently sized as well, so you've got a lot of different things you can grab in them. I do think the countries themselves, though, just aren't that interesting, which is kind of why I found myself a little bit bored with this expansion. I did have some fun with the Raj in particular, because they're kind of in the front of it, and they get to battle the Japanese, where you can just become a fascist and conquer things, but at that point it's kind of stupid, because if you decide to join the Axis, then what's the point? Because you and Japan will just wipe over the entirety of Asia. I mean, sure, you could join, I guess, and play as a communist country or try and create your own factions or something like that, but there's just not a whole lot you can really do with these countries. They're just really boring and uninteresting nations, to be honest. Now, the new autonomy system is supposed to kind of present that idea of whether or not you're just a complete puppet of Britain or if you have some autonomy on your own to do your own things, but it's just not that well designed of a mechanic. It's not really interesting, and it's kind of just there. There's also the new Lend-Lease system, which is pretty good for some countries like the United States, where you might want to try and flood a certain country with equipment, or if you're playing as a really tiny country that can't really build its own stuff, you might find a lot of luck there requesting equipment from the United States or Britain or something like that. It's probably the most useful in multiplayer, I'd say. It gets some use in single player, but the AI isn't the greatest at actually lending the stuff to you. And then there's the Spearhead Battle Plan, which is definitely the most useful feature of this expansion. You could take a bunch of tanks, put them together, and try and drive a wedge through enemies with tanks or, fast-moving units. Or if you want to just try and find a weak spot in an enemy, you can take a bunch of guys, put them together, and create a battle plan spearhead that's just going to punch through an area, which is really nice. It's very useful and great, but it is controversial, obviously, because it probably should have been in the base game, to be honest. But this is definitely the best feature of this expansion, and it's definitely the one that's going to make it actually useful if you're playing as a non-Commonwealth country. And then you've got the technology sharing, which allows you to catch up to Britain a little bit. It's a useful feature, obviously, if you're going to play as a Commonwealth nation. It's not really anything amazing. It's just kind of there. And then finally, you have the new battle log, which there's certain tabs of this that are restricted to the expansion. It allows you to kind of see how in the battle went. You can get some more interesting details on statistics like equipment loss and how your troops are performing and stuff like that. Overall, is Together for Victory actually worth buying? Not really, to be honest. Unless you're dying to get the Spearhead Battle Plan, which is useful and I do really like, and it's certainly something that I can use with other countries, which I really like. The meat of this expansion is the Commonwealth system and playing as Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the Raj, or South Africa. But none of those countries are really that exciting. They're just kind of boring. They're off to the side. They're not really in the thick of the fighting. Sure, if you're playing multiplayer, I do think you could get a lot of value out of this. Playing as like Canada, for example, and trying to support Britain and the Allies in their effort. That can be a lot of fun. But playing single player, this is just a real bore fest. And so I guess that's really the line you got to draw, is if you're going to play multiplayer, sure, pick this up. If you're going to play single player, this just really isn't that fun. And definitely skip this one unless it's on a sale.